Imagine descending into total darkness, not metaphorically, but literally. You're deep beneath the earth, inside a prehistoric cavern where every sound echoes for eternity and every flicker of light feels sacred. The walls are alive with paintings, animals in motion, hands reaching through time, symbols no one has ever fully decoded. But then, something changes. Tucked away behind a narrow passage almost invisible unless you know exactly where to look, you find a section of wall that feels wrong. The drawings shift. No more wild horses or galloping bison. Instead, a human figure, unmistakably suffering, pierced by spears, limbs outstretched, head blurred by smudges of white ash. This image wasn't meant to be admired. It was hidden deliberately. Why? Tonight, we investigate one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries of ancient history. The secret paintings buried in our oldest caves. Who painted them? What message did they carry? And why were some images meant never to be seen again? In the winter of 1925, French archaeologist Dr. Elise Renard led a research team into the now famous caves of Lascaux. Most came to study the well-known panels, beautiful depictions of bulls, deer, and horses leaping in a kind of primitive ballet across the stone. But Elise was different. She was obsessed with the unmapped corridors, places where the air was thin and the walls were cracked from time. It was in one of these barely stable chambers, behind a partially collapsed wall, that Elise's torch caught something no one expected. A hidden mural, darker and more violent than anything else in the cave. She wrote in her journal, "The figure is not beast, but man, speared, outstretched, the face blurred as if ashamed to be seen." The painting was hidden behind rubble, as if someone or something intended to erase it from the visual history of the tribe. And even stranger, pigment samples from this section did not match those used in the rest of the cave. They were older, rougher, charcoal and blood mixed with ash. Elise believed she had uncovered a kind of forbidden chamber, a site kept secret from the rest of the community. Her writings became more paranoid. She described the feeling of being watched. In the darkness, team members refused to go back into the corridor. One called it the Judgment Wall. Archaeologists later identified the concealed mural chamber as Chamber C, a term that appears nowhere in official tourism guides. It lies beyond the public routes, accessible only through a winding passage with jagged steps and a sudden drop. What's most unsettling is that Chamber C may have predated the rest of the artwork. Radiocarbon dating suggests the wall was painted centuries before the more famous animal murals. And unlike those masterpieces which burst with movement and life, Chamber C is filled with stillness, pain, silence. Some experts believe Chamber C was not part of everyday cultural life. It was a sacred chamber, accessible only to spiritual leaders or executioners. Others say it held a judicial function, a symbolic court where shame, crime, and punishment were immortalized in pigment. In one particularly disturbing depiction, a figure stands between two others, its arms extended as if crucified or judged. Above them, symbols resembling eyes or tears or stars. Were these images part of a tribal law, a myth, or a dark memory the tribe never wanted to relive? Across the globe, ancient cultures preserved knowledge through ritual art. In some Aboriginal traditions, sacred paintings were visible only to initiated members. In Siberia, Mongolian shamans painted scenes of spiritual death and rebirth. These weren't decorative, they were functional. They taught, they warned, they judged. Dr. Mateo Alvarez, an anthropologist specializing in prehistoric belief systems, studied the hidden murals in Chamber C and came to a startling conclusion. What you're seeing isn't history, it's consequence. He points to the spears in the mural not as weapons of war, but as symbols of divine judgment. The spread arms? Possibly a punishment ritual meant to be reenacted in ceremonies. The white blur over the face? Perhaps a curse, a symbolic erasure of identity. Traces of fire pits suggest that the chamber was once used for ritual smoke, where tribal elders would gather, recite laws, pass judgment, and paint their verdicts. And when their story was told, they buried it. By the mid-1970s, Chamber C was sealed again, this time not by ancient hands, but by bureaucrats. The official reason? Preservation concerns. But some archaeologists whisper of internal conflicts, debates over whether the truth of Chamber C was too dark for public consumption. Dr. Elise Renard died in 1968. Her notes were stored, then locked away. Photographs of Chamber C were quietly removed from museum collections. Even Dr. Alvarez has faced pressure to stop publishing. Today, the site remains inaccessible. Tourists walk past its sealed entrance every day, unaware of the secrets it contains. A wall covered in clay, a mural buried in darkness, a memory suppressed not just by the ancients, but by us. So, what do we make of this? The human need to create goes back tens of thousands of years, but so does the need to hide, to control, to pass down lessons not with words, but with images burned into stone. These forbidden murals weren't accidents. They were messages, sometimes warnings, sometimes curses, always deliberate. What did they fear? What did they hope to prevent? And now that we've uncovered them, are we ready to understand what they truly meant? Let us know what you think. Subscribe for more stories the world tried to bury. And remember, some drawings were never meant to be seen again. Buried files, stories the world tries to bury. Subscribe, like, and comment.